I'm Alex. I run Lower Grand Radio with the help of many others, and here we are at the headquarters studios that we also share with Cone Shape Top and Unity Press and their skateboards. So let's check it out. How did Lower Grand start? I was always in a college radio, but I got the chance just when you're in high school, they encourage you to volunteer locally. And I emailed Calex and went there once a week for, I don't even remember for how long, but I just love that feeling of kind of independent, like a DIY thing. Everyone's just supporting each other, and it's a cool atmosphere to be a part of. And I knew like I wanted to continue that somehow, but when I got back from school, moved back home here, I just started it in my basement, and I just kind of had like I had a really simple setup, figured out how to stream just audio, and I'd have friends over every once in a while to just play music together and hang out and kind of give hanging out more of a purpose. From there, like I remember my friend Jeff Chung starting Unity Press and getting access to like the Reso printer. And I've always kind of been into design and, but not taking things too seriously. So I thought it'd be kind of funny if we made merch as a joke every once in a while or something. People started emailing and like sending resumes and show proposals, and I thought that was really cool. And it just kind of grew more, and like we found different places to do it at, and just learning along the way really on how to like improve things with audio, the website, making merch, like do all that. And it's definitely come out of like a continuation of going to local shows and knowing people who are just into music. There's so many things that I love about the music scene, or like playing music, playing drums in bands and stuff, but it just feels like something that feels like I have to do it. And I think one thing that I really like about, being in the scene, or like, I think it kind of goes back to like volunteering at Calex back in the day too, and going to all age shows around here, was that it's like great people watching, you're learning from just being there. And I still feel that same interest, that same feeling like when I was a teen and, growing up and finding out about new music. So it just feels right to kind of, collaborate with people and do things together. It's just always more fun to do things together. And after being a little older and playing shows and running a community radio station, I just still feel that same feeling like I want to, keep it going and be a part of it. We got to 4124 Broadway because the previous people in here were moving on, and I think my friend Max approached me. We actually bumped into each other at, I think it was the Alameda Flea Market one morning, and he said that he was moving on with his thing, and if we thought about if we wanted to like, get in here, and the rent was a great deal at the time, and we were looking for something bigger, something for our own, and this came up, and we just like immediately moved everything over. And I asked some friends who had built studios and had better knowledge about sound stuff to help build the studio. It was Lower Grand Radio and Unity Press, their skateboards for up until this year, up until like 2025, and Cone Shape Top moved in. And it's just, it's been great. I feel like it's just a really good fit. Yeah, Lower Grand Radio has a pretty wide range of shows, and I think it's something that, it's always kind of a challenge to like get the word out about. And sometimes people assume maybe I've heard this is usually what I hear, but they always think it is like really DJ mixing, electronic centric, and I think is a majority, but we also have like interview shows, talk shows, an advice column like variety show. There's jazz, there's hip hop and rap. There's like all kinds of genres. There's like an ongoing metal one. Yeah, and there's a lot of eclectic stuff going on that's, more selecting, more sharing than really like like mixing and live aspect of it. I remember like some of the early days, like some of the ideas that people thought would be cool weren't always like music. I remember some of the first ones were like someone who would just read misconnections from Craigslist on for like, half an hour. But yeah, it's kind of just a bit free form, and I think I maybe like draw inspiration just from more independent radio stations that are like from below the 93 FM dial or whatever it is. Yeah, and because it's internet only, there's more freedom to play whatever. Yeah, just give people the chance to like try something out. So the breadth is large. Yeah, here at LGR, and we like that. Yeah, Lower Grand Radio is run by a core set of people that I think have been consistent over the years. I want to shout out Nick, who has been monumental in creating more of like a infrastructure for the back end for archiving for the web things and just making sure things are like smooth on that end. But it's definitely been a learning process along the way to maintain like consistency with meetings and events and stuff like that. But it's also been kind of just the way LGR is kind of organically run. We don't have like a real schedule with things. I think it does reflect maybe my capacity and other people's time. But yeah, it is run by a core group of maybe like 5 to 6 of us. Yeah, that do a lot of the behind the scenes work. I've always been inspired by just the DIY ethos, like, seeing a band that you're really fired up about, and then you want to start your own band. That's kind of always been, like the push for me is I just know with like, spaces when people get together, things will come out of that. And that's why, definitely with COVID, it was so tough it was just like different. We had to adapt and do all that. But yeah, having like one place, having the record store, having the skate shop that you kind of grew up, met people and learned from, I think it's just natural that, things will kind of like those relationships will blossom out of that. And it has been really cool because people will maybe start a show, want to build up an identity around it, and maybe are just inspired of like the energy from other people that they meet here who are already maybe throwing events or starting their own brands or like nights or whatever it is. And yeah, I think sometimes it's that first step, like not knowing how did you get that show? How did you make this happen? And then just then meeting someone here who's like, oh, you just email the venue, talk about maybe like what you would do. And yeah, it's been really cool to see like people who have started doing more organizing around, yeah, just local shows at local venues and stuff. And just knowing that, after they do it once, it just gets easier or changes, into something else. So I guess maybe Lower Grand Radio has been kind of a starting point for people to meet or showcase like what they're doing in their own way. I always tell people like the amount of time that you're here, you can play whatever you want, kind of talk about whatever you want, and it's all up to you, you know. It's pretty hands off, and it's really sick to see what people do when they're put in front of like, you know, the turntables or what they say or how they change in front of a microphone too. So it's been a jumping point, you know, for a lot of things. DJ nights, like rock nights, guitar band stuff, like yeah, everything. Or press, like people making zines, seeing not just the radio stuff, but how, you know, Unity started like queer skate days and just kind of renegades set it things up and at skate spots and just kind of went for it. I have to say also, I feel like a big push for radio things was always because Jeff Chung from Unity Press was always encouraging, kind of like a doer before a thinker. And sometimes you just need that energy to push to do the, you know, do those things. And I always like try to think about yeah that energy to harness that. What is next for Lower Grand Radio? People have been asking me about that for a long time, and I never have a really good or solid answer. I do want the station just to be able to, you know, consistently do what we have been doing, like sharing local music, giving people a space to just do their thing, because there's not enough of that in the Bay Area in general. I see maybe radio being maybe improving with like maybe some of the reach, you know. I'm not opposed to doing more events and stuff like that too, but just at our own pace. And I think maybe just really fostering the space that we have here. I love being here. I love having Unity and Cone Shape Top as studio mates, and hopefully just yeah, keep it all going for a little bit longer until me or want to call it quits and hand it off. Yeah. I don't think I'd want it to end. I just would like to hand it off. My hope for the Bay Area music scene in general, and this is something that I talk about with friends like all the time, but just having like solid venues, having solid spaces to do stuff. Not mid tier, but you know, things between the Fox and between the Knockout or like something like that, where you can have like great events, actually support locals instead of just saying that you are or that you will throw those shows, but maintaining kind of like the DIY, you know, aspect of it. I know it is so much easier said than done running like a whole business and a venue and doing all that. But yeah, just I hope that we could have more of those all age venues. We can have more places for people to experience live music, foster creativity and stuff like that. You know, it's always a battle. And yeah, I just feel like with the ongoing AI boom, with the tech influence in the Bay Area, that we maintain places where it's not online, it's face to face. It's, you know, it's here and you meet people, and that's my hope, is that we maintain those live venues or just spaces like this where creativity is kind of not always disruptive, but it's happening.